it just kept getting darker. That's how one Reddit user described it after participating.
Bro, that's terrible, man. Bro, I don't know who the would do so. Like, bro, it's so baffling to hear that there's folks. It's really folks out here that's moving like that. And it's like when y'all moving like that, y'all never have that thought that comes across y'all mind like, bro, what am I doing with myself? Like, why am I so evil?
Yo, Lulu.
Excuse me, bitch, I was running on my bag. Money on my shoulder, put designer on my ass. The shit too nice, but it's fucking up my head. So I be getting high, but I ain't popping fuckers in.
But, title of this one, By the Void, The Dark Side of Lost Media 3. Nah, sports is fire, man. Miami Heat all the way. The title of this one, The Dark Side of Lost Media. So we gonna jump in this one. I keep getting distracted because Miami Heat, man. Damn, we out the playoffs though. I want y'all home with us. I want Tatum to be with Bam right now, chilling in Cancun. Heat burial will not be lost though. No, we gonna make a comeback. Pat Riley said we not running it back.
Most lost media fades into obscurity by accident.
Old ass.
A show gets cancelled.
Whoa.
A hard drive.
Wait, I wasn't ready. Chat. All right, we finishing off with a scary one, chat. Though, you better lock in.
Most lost media fades into obscurity by accident. A show gets cancelled. A hard drive fails. A tape is forgotten on a shelf. But sometimes, it disappears for a very different reason. In 2009, a Pakistani reality show set out to crown the ultimate survivor. It had corporate sponsors, exotic filming locations, and a full production crew. But during the filming of one challenge, something went horribly wrong and has remained buried ever since. Hidden behind contracts, PR statements, and footage that, to this day, has never surfaced.
Bro, clear man. Bro, damn.
Clearman was supposed to be a breakthrough in Pakistani television, a sleek, high-budget reality series modelled after the American television series Survivor, with contestants flown to Thailand to compete in exotic, high-stakes challenges.
The world is so beautiful sometimes.
For those unfamiliar, Survivor places a group of people in an isolated location where they're forced to provide food, fire, and shelter for themselves. Each episode, they go head-to-head in grueling physical and mental challenges, everything from swimming and running to puzzles and endurance tests. The winners earn rewards, the losers risk elimination, voted out by the very people they live with. It's a slow, competitive descent into one final winner. And in 2009, Clearman tried to bring that same...
Yo, that shit sounds fun as hell, though. Why do I sound like I want to be in Survivor? Why is my guilty trait the fact that I think that I can win that?
Formula to Pakistan. Commissioned by Unilever Pakistan, the show was designed to promote clear anti-dandruff shampoo. The name wasn't metaphorical. Whoever won the competition would literally be crowned the Clear Man. Filming took place in Bangkok, Thailand, and hosted by Amina Sheikh, a popular Pakistani model. By mid-August of that year, 9 episodes had already been completed. Among the contestants was 32-year-old Mohammed Saad Khan, a husband and father of 4, and a rising professional working at the Royal Bank of Scotland. He wasn't there for the money. According to friends, he'd joined Clearman for the experience and the challenge. He loved thrill, competition, anything that pushed him. And with his height, good looks, and background in modelling, he quickly became a standout on the show, a favourite among the other contestants. But that didn't stop him from being eliminated in episode 4. After failing to land a ball in a basket during a physical challenge, he was voted out. At least, temporarily.
Well, shampoo. I mean, if there's no shampoo in play, I wouldn't be able to... I get it, Leggy. I wouldn't be able to play, Uncle Lou's ball, I still shampoo my hair when I ain't shaved, though.
Being eliminated earlier in the competition, he was brought back through a wildcard twist, likely because of how popular he had become among both the contestants and the crew.
Running my fingers through my thoughts.
Hours before filming, he was excited. He told friends he couldn't wait to get back in the game. This was the kind of challenge he lived for. The event was held in Chatuchak Park in Bangkok, a 3-stage obstacle course designed to test endurance. First, contestants had to run through a fiery path. Then, they would dive into a pond and swim across. The final stretch was a rope climb to the finish, and throughout it all, they were required to carry a 7-kilogram sandbag.
And how much money is
The
this?
pond, at its center, was 8 feet deep, but no one saw that as a problem. The cast had been assured that the water wasn't dangerous, that there were precautions in place, and they believed it. But there were no divers, no paramedics, no proper lifeguards, just first aid staff, and only if someone got hurt. Saad entered the course with confidence. He sprinted through the first leg, cleared the
Bruh.
fire, reached
When you just hear a story and you just see the picture, you already know this is not gonna go in a good direction.
the edge of the pond,
Like, you
then,
can just
without
tell.
hesitation, jumped in. He was a strong swimmer. Friends had described him that way. But not long after entering the water, something changed. Midway through the pond, Saad flipped onto his back. He looked panicked. Then he called out for help, with the weight still strapped onto him. Some of it tied to his chest, some allegedly secured around his ankles. He was struggling to stay afloat. Then, he went underwater. The water was muddy. The visibility was low. The other contestants, watching from the edge, jumped in to search for him. Crew members joined in, but no one could see anything. Minutes passed. His backpack floated to the surface, but Saad never did. By the time lifeguards arrived, between 10 and 12 minutes later, it was already over. They pulled him from the water, but he had no pulse. And with no oxygen support or resuscitation gear, there was nothing they could have done to save him.
But did they even try
News
for
of
real?
Saad Khan's death didn't break immediately. In fact, in the days that followed, there was almost nothing. It wasn't until his body was flown back to Karachi that the story began to surface. At first, the only voices speaking out came from Pakistani bloggers. People like Umair Mohsin, Farooq Ahmed, and the site Teeth Maestro began posting details online. They paid tribute to Saad. Then they started asking questions. Questions about why the show had continued filming, why there were no safety protocols, and why no one in the media seemed willing to cover it.
Shit for
One of the
entertainment,
first to
bro.
publish the story was a blogger named Farhan Junjua. But almost immediately after his article went live, his entire website was taken offline by his hosting provider. The reason listed was nature of content. It wasn't until the end of August, nearly 2 weeks after the incident, that national and international media finally began reporting on the case. But even then, the story was incomplete. Interviews with contestants confirmed that the production team had never measured the depth of the pond, that there were no lifeguards present during the challenge, and in a report published by the Times of India, unnamed crew members alleged that the production team delayed rescue efforts because they wanted to
they're
keep
not
filming.
trying for real.
Thai police opened an investigation to determine whether the death had been accidental or the result of negligence, but no official findings were ever released. When finally confronted, Unilever denied responsibility. The company's spokeswoman stated that production had been outsourced to Working Hands Productions, with Mindshare acting as the intermediary. According to her, the contract clearly stated that safety and security measures were the responsibility of those teams, not Unilever itself. When asked to provide a copy of that contract, the company declined. Instead, they offered Saad's family a private compensation package, not as an admission of guilt, but in their words, out of rightness. After the public found out, Unilever announced that filming had been suspended. Quietly, the show was cancelled. No episodes of Clear Man were ever released.
Bro,
According
what?
to the national news, Saad's relatives,
They just
along
swept
with
it
his
under the
friend
rug?
Babar Jumani, had tried to obtain the footage. They wanted to see what had happened. Whether they ever received it is still unknown. And in the end, Clear Man became something no one ever planned for. A reality show remembered not for how it aired, but for how it disappeared.
That's crazy. Scary too. Hush money, man. For real. It's like tell them to shut up, but that's not enough.
There's a
money.
kind of silence that only happens at concerts. Right after a song ends,
I never
when
been
the
to a
singer
concert.
pauses to speak. Maybe to tell a story. Maybe to introduce what comes next. But on one night in August 2010, that silence went on for much longer. At a sold-out show in California, the lights were low. The audience was still, and the band had just finished playing one of their most powerful songs. Then, something happened. The music stopped. The show never resumed. And what was captured that night by the fans, the crew, and the cameras was never seen again.
Cob. Corn on the cobby. Corn on the cob, the swell season.
The Swell Season is a folk rock duo made up of Glenn Hansard and Marketa Irglova. By 2010, they were touring the US, performing emotional, intimate sets to devoted fans. On August 19th, they were playing a sold-out show at the Mountain Winery in Saratoga, California. The venue was outdoors, built into the hillside. The stage sat beneath a tall stone structure that resembled an old church. Nearly 2,000 people filled the seats. Among them was 32-year-old Michael Edward Pickles, who had come to the show with a friend. Throughout the night, he stayed mostly to himself. He stood alone. He barely reacted to the music. Something about him seemed detached, quiet, distant, but not outwardly upset. At some point around 10 p.m., he left his seat, left his belongings behind, and vanished into the crowd. On stage, the Swell Season had just finished performing one of their most emotional songs, When Your Mind's Made Up. The music faded, the lights were low. Glenn Hansard had started talking to the audience, joking with his guitarist. And then, in the middle of that quiet moment, something broke. A figure appeared on the rooftop above the stage. He was moving fast, climbing up the stone structure, sprinting across the roof, losing his footing, then getting back up again. And then, he jumped. He dropped nearly 30 feet, crashing through lighting equipment before slamming into a speaker just a few feet from Glenn Hansard. There was no scream,
What?
no warning, just a sudden impact, heavy and violent. For a moment, no one understood what had happened. Glenn walked over and stood above the body.
What?
The rest of the band slowly left the stage. From the crowd, people screamed. Others cried. A doctor in the audience rushed forward. Paramedics arrived shortly.
What? Where? From where? Up here? Or up here? Cause this is an insane fall up here alone. But anywhere up here, forget about
Cried. A doctor in the audience rushed forward. Paramedics arrived shortly after. They performed CPR for over an hour, but it was too late. Michael Edward Pickles had taken his own life in front of nearly 2,000 people.
Why?
The show never resumed. After the impact, the venue emptied out in silence.
Yo, and I'm not trying to be insensitive to what he did. Whatever he was going through is insane. But why do that in front of all those people? That's some attention-seeking shit. Nobody's going to sit there and feel bad for you after you do some bullshit like that. Like, there's people that probably brought their kids out to some show like this. I don't know what kind of music they make. Maybe, they probably just came to catch a vibe and you came to do that shit. That's on some, like, Owen Hart, like, shit. But this one's not an accident.
Some people cried. Others just stood there, unsure of what they'd just witnessed. Glenn Hansard and Marketa Irglova left quietly, along with the rest of the band.
Ruin people, bro.
The next day, a brief statement was posted to the band's MySpace page. It read,
MySpace.
"The band, crew, and all involved with them are shocked and saddened by the unfortunate events of last night. Our hearts go out to the victim and to his friends and family." But what followed was questions. Who was Michael Edward Pickles, and why did he do this? At the time of his death, Pickles was facing multiple charges.
A pole went
He
through
had been
his
arrested
chest.
earlier that year after allegedly threatening to kill his girlfriend and himself during an argument on New Year's Day. According to police reports, he had tied her up, pointed a loaded shotgun at her, and said he was going to end both of their lives. She pleaded with him, promised not to tell anyone. Eventually, he let her go. She escaped, called authorities, and Pickles was arrested later that night after a 90-minute standoff. He was out on a $150,000 bail when he attended the concert. There was no suicide note, no public explanation. But from the charges, the court date, and the looming consequences, it was clear that something in his life had broken. And for whatever reason, he chose that night, that moment, that stage.
He wanted attention.
The Swell season cancelled the remainder of the concert, and though they never publicly addressed the event again, what happened that night has stayed with the people who were there. With nearly 2,000 people in the
That's
audience,
crazy too.
many were filming parts of the show. Some of those clips have surfaced online, fragments of the concert before and after the incident.
Wow.
But the moment itself, the impact, the jump, has never been released.
Wow.
And in the end, that night became more than just a concert. It became a night that hundreds witnessed, that only a handful recorded, and that no one will ever fully forget.
But that's crazy, bro. So these are like medias that we'll never see. Like it's like
Some of the darkest
out
footage
there.
ever recorded wasn't caught by chance. It was planned, carefully set up, filmed in controlled conditions. In 2018, a political satire series set out to expose the powerful, using disguise, deception, and absurdity to see how far people would go when they thought no one was watching. Most of what they captured was ridiculous. Some of it went viral, but one interview never aired. Not because of what was asked, but because of how it was answered.
Whoa, damn. Fuck. What, the way he edited that shit. Look like
Who is America premiered in July of 2018.
the fuck?
Created by satirist Sacha Baron Cohen, the show was built around a single idea: get close to people in power and see what they're willing to say when they think no one will question them. Each episode followed Cohen in full disguise as one of several fictional characters: a far-right conspiracy theorist, a militant Israeli colonel, an eccentric activist, all created to bait politicians, influencers, and everyday Americans into saying something they'd never say on their own.
Bro, that's fucking Borat. Borat fucking out here. This dude different, bro. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine having to have a show like this? No, G shit. It does sound brilliant. Like, he did this, and his disguises are so good.
What made the show disturbing
Lost Media?
wasn't
Oh, I
that
want
the
to hear
tricks
this.
worked. It's that they worked so easily. In just 7 episodes, Cohen convinced a lawmaker to strip down and shout racial slurs on camera. He got celebrities to endorse fake causes. He accused a former Senate candidate of being a child molester and filmed the reaction. But one segment was never released, and what was meant to be another absurd stunt turned into something far darker.
All the stuff he
Gio
named.
Monaldo was one of Sacha Baron Cohen's lesser-known characters, an Italian billionaire, a fashion photographer, outlandish, crude, and completely fake. He got a reality TV star to endorse child soldiers. He tried to get O.J. Simpson to confess to murder. But in Las Vegas, things went somewhere else entirely. Cohen was in character, staying at a hotel when he approached a concierge. The cameras were rolling. The plan was the same: say something outrageous and see how far the other person would go. But this time, he opened with it. Gio told the concierge he had assaulted an 8-year-old boy, and he waited for the man to leave. Instead, he stayed. Not only that, he listened, offered advice, asked questions. They talked about how to solve the problem, about lawyers who could make it disappear, about why drowning the boy wouldn't work in America. And then, when Cohen asked for a young boy to celebrate with, someone older than 8, but younger than bar mitzvah age,
Oh my
the concierge
gosh.
didn't even pause. He said he knew someone who could help.
What the
He said
fuck?
it like it was normal. Cohen had gone in expecting to make a scene. Instead, he was horrified he may have uncovered something real. Something that never should have happened, and something no one was ever supposed to see. After the interview, Cohen broke character. He took the footage and sent it directly to the FBI. What he believed he'd uncovered wasn't just a sick joke gone too far. It felt like the tip of something larger. But when the FBI reviewed the footage, they dropped the case. No arrests, no follow-up. Cohen later called the segment too dark and wrong to be aired, not just for legal reasons, but because it was disturbing on a level that even Who is America couldn't justify. The scene wasn't funny. No one laughed. It just kept getting darker. That's how one Reddit user described it after participating.
Bro, that's terrible, man. Bro, I don't know who the fuck would do so. Like, bro, it's so baffling to hear that there's folks, it's really folks out here that's moving like that. Like, bruh, that's crazy, bruh. And it's like when y'all moving like that, y'all never have that thought that comes across your mind like, bro, what am I doing with myself? Like, why am I so evil? That don't come across your mind?
In a private research screening. They wrote, "As a research participant, I was privileged to see this and many of the other scenes that appeared in the series. Yes, this man did indeed say somewhat reluctantly that he could put Cohen's character in touch with someone that could help him. No one in the room laughed at this scene. It wasn't funny and became darker and darker until we were all in shock. It was really hard to tell if this guy was just saying what was needed to be said to get the job he was interviewing for. I got the impression that his job was to always say yes no matter what was asked, because rich people don't take no kindly, and then figure a way to weasel out of what was not possible. In this particular case, it was hard to tell if he actually could, or if he was just lying. And maybe that was it. Or maybe, as some have suggested, the concierge turned over the encounter himself, reported the character to the FBI, and when they looked into it, they realized Gio Monaldo didn't exist. There's even the possibility the FBI did pursue it, quietly. But either way, the result was the same. No footage or images of the concierge interview have ever been publicly released, and we don't even know for sure if it still exists. Cohen never returned for a second season. Whatever happened in that Las Vegas hotel room was real enough to send to the FBI, and disturbing enough to never be seen again. They say snuff films don't exist.
Oh my god.
Stories like that have always lived on the fringes, passed around online, dismissed by authorities, and chalked up as dark internet folklore. But in 1999, a case out of Germany changed everything. 2 men were arrested after police uncovered a recording, not just a violent video. This was different. It had been planned, filmed, and prepared for sale. And for the first time, investigators had direct evidence that people weren't only looking for snuff films, but some had already made them.
This is lost media.
For decades, people have argued about whether snuff films are real. The idea first entered the public conversation in the 1970s. Around that time, a rumor started spreading that underground filmmakers were producing movies that showed real killings, then selling the tapes to a private audience. The kind of thing that would never be advertised, just passed from hand to hand in secret. It was a disturbing concept, but there was no evidence, nothing to prove it actually happened.
Bro, the imagery
Then, in 1976,
scary.
a movie was released, simply titled Snuff. It claimed to show an actress being killed on camera. And even though the scene was staged, the lie was enough to amplify the myth. And from that point on, snuff films became part of internet folklore, a rumor that refused to go away. People have seen real murders on video before,
Is that
on the
Children of the
dark web,
Corn?
in cartel footage, in terrorism propaganda. But none of those were created for the same reason. They weren't made to be sold to an audience as entertainment. And that's what makes this case different. In 1997, two men in Germany created what's now considered the first confirmed snuff film. Ernst Dieter Kortzen and Stefan Michael Mahn weren't looking for shock value. They were looking for money. According to prosecutors, they intended to sell the footage overseas, where videos like this could reportedly fetch over £10,000 or just over $13,000. On the night it began, they drove through the red light district of Cologne and approached a 21-year-old sex worker named Züleyha Akpinar. They offered her drugs and money to come with them to a remote farmhouse in Runsol, about 60 kilometers west. Once there, they tied her up using metal banding tape and began recording. Kortzen carried out the assault. Mahn filmed it. But partway through, Züleyha stopped breathing. She hadn't made it to the end of what they had planned. She died before the footage was complete. Frustrated and still determined to finish the tape, they went back out. Days later, they kidnapped another woman near a Christmas market in Dortmund. This time, she managed to escape. And that escape is what brought everything to an end. Police were able to track the two men back to the farmhouse. What they found confirmed everything. Inside, they discovered the body of Züleyha Akpinar. Her remains had been discarded in a pile of rubbish. Her wrists and ankles were bound with metal banding tape, which had cut deeply into her skin. A forensic report later confirmed the cause of death was strangulation. During the investigation, it became clear that the attack had been filmed. The footage, intended for distribution, served as direct evidence. Both men were arrested and charged with murder. The judge sentenced both men to life in a secure psychiatric institution. It was ruled that Kortzen would not be eligible for a review for at least 18 years. Mahn, 15. But what disturbed investigators most was the motive. This wasn't a crime of impulse. It had been planned, filmed, and priced, and it was made for an audience. According to prosecutors, there was a ready market, particularly in the United States, for films depicting extreme violence and death. And this case, they said, was proof that such a network wasn't just rumor. And yet, barely anyone knows about it. For a case this serious, the first time a court confirmed the existence of a snuff film, you'd expect it to be widely known. Taught in criminology courses, referenced in news reports, brought up in every debate over whether snuff films are real. But outside of a single documentary and a few archived articles, it's almost been forgotten. If an underground market for this kind of footage really exists, something prosecutors openly suggested, then why isn't this case talked about more? Why isn't it held up as proof? Maybe because it's easier not to look. Maybe because the reality is worse than the myth. As for the footage itself, its current status is unknown. It existed at one point. That's been proven. But what happened to it after the trial isn't clear. It may have been destroyed, or it could still be out there, unlabeled, hidden, circulated quietly through the places most people never see. And that uncertainty is what makes this case so disturbing. Not just because of what was done on camera, but because something like this could be created, confirmed, and then quietly disappear, without anyone really noticing. A piece of media that proved the myth was real. And now, it's nowhere to be found.
Bro, I don't know where they be finding this kind of media from. Because again, like I was saying in the video, like I would go search this kind of stuff up and I would have a hard time finding it. So for them to have a good detailed outlook on all that stuff is always, it's great insight. It's great insight, right? I had to put the thing through the shirt though, man. You know what I say? Uncle Lou getting cold, boy. Uncle Lou getting cold, boy. But man, you know what I'm saying, man? We did this little itty bitty late night stream, man. I appreciate y'all for tapping in, if you know what I mean.